Hello, I am so excited to welcome Mike Dawson, who is the award-winning author of a number of graphic novels, including the very well-known Fifth Quarter, as well as a brand new book, The Hidden Dominion of Jordy James, which I actually have right here, which came out it came out in the spring of 2026. And in addition to his work written for younger readers, Mike contributes cartoon essays to The Nib, Slate, Upworthy, The Comics Journal, The New Yorker, and The New York Times. So thank you for joining me, Mike.
Thank you for having me. This is great. I'm really excited to talk.
And so I told you that the very first thing I want to talk about is your newest book, The Hidden Dominion of Jordy James. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. All right. And so tell me about the story. What is it about?
Should I share my screen? Because I can.
Yes, that would be great.
Um, and also on the first page of the book, I do have my character. Yeah, he says how to pronounce Geordie because I realize that maybe kids would have a. Are you able to see that?
Yes, I am. Looks great.
So what I'm showing here, this will relate to probably we're going to talk a bit more about later too. Is when I go to schools, I have like a little demo. I've just started talking about this book, um,
Mhm,
and this book has got a lot going on in it, so it's been a little bit of a challenge to distill it down. So
mhm.
there's the cover to The Hidden Dominion of Jordy James. It did get 3-starred reviews, which I was very excited.
Yay!
Charlotte's Web meets the Minecraft movie is it's just what I say to mostly the kids to kind of get them to kind of like pay attention to like they perk up when they hear Minecraft movie, and they also are all familiar with Charlotte's Web, and I think it sort of sums up nicely the tone that I'm
Mhm,
going for. It's not actually got much to do with the plot. Um, here's a graphic, which is this is actually the illustration that's on the interior of the hardcover case. And the question below says, "What is the hidden dominion of Geordie James about?" Well, it is about an anxious sixth grader named Geordie James. That's a picture of him looking a little concerned. He's having a lot of troubles. He's struggling at school. He's struggling a lot socially. He's struggling to make friends. Those kids in the picture with him, they are along with him, all failing their science class because Geordie is also struggling in school. And because these 5 kids are struggling, they all get put on a group project together. And we can see on their faces exactly how thrilled they are about that turn of events. So these 5 students are assigned to a group project. The teacher says you're going to be creating a display for a science fair, answering the question, "What is our place in this world?" Jordy could care less. He really does not want to be on this project. He's frustrated. He doesn't want to be bothered with any of these things. He just wants to do the one thing he does love. He has one true passion, and that is Dominion, the best game ever made. That is a graphic from the world of Dominion, which is a video game that he plays on his tablet. It's very similar to Minecraft or Roblox in terms of like how it functions. In terms of how it looks, I kind of had to make different decisions just based on my own abilities.
mhm,
So this is actually a page from the book. It's just talking a little bit about how the game works. All kids all play online together. It's kind of an open world
mhm,
situation. You can have battles, battle royales. You can do a lot of building. There's a lot of building that goes on in the game, similar to Minecraft, like where you can construct whatever you can think of, whatever you have resources for. And this is Jordy's avatar, and building is what he loves to do. And this is another page from the book, and it talks about how he liked to play alone. He likes playing by himself, and he spends a lot of time building, putting together this like intricate amusement park and sort of his own little nook of Dominion. But his father gets somewhat frustrated with what's going on with him in school, with his grades, and also what's happening with him socially. He feels like he's spending too much time on the device, and he tells him, "You got to go spend some time outside." And we can see that Jordy doesn't feel that great about that either. Feels that it's very unfair. Why has he got to be put in this group with these kids? They don't even want to hear his ideas. Just leave him alone. Let him do what he wants. But his dog Crackerjack, while they're out in the woods, breaks off of her leash and discovers this weird mountain of Christmas trees out in the deep in the woods. Jordy thinks of it as a Christmas tree graveyard. It's something what the town does with the discarded Christmas trees. Um, like they break down to like turn into mulch, and underneath it, he finds this fort that maybe some teenagers built. But when he's in there, he notices that not only can he still play his tablet game, which he's very excited to discover, it still works out there, but it also works better. There's things happening in the game that don't happen to him normally. He's more powerful. He's got more abilities. And that like the game is just like doing unexpected things. So that was my basic, quick little summary. I'm not sure if in this screen shares display you can read all that, but that's basically just a lot of what I just said. But also in the story, there are pigs. There's pigs throughout the story. There is a pig that Jordy sees on the news, a news story about a pig that escapes from a nearby factory farm slaughterhouse, and is rumored to be, escaped into some woods somewhat in the vicinity. And Jordy can't stop worrying about the fate of this animal. There's a pig that appears inside Dominion when he plays out in the woods, and it sort of maybe be connected to like the things that are happening to him. And then also there's a long forgotten memory of a pig that Geordie once met when he was small, and this memory may be the key to a lot of what's going on. So that the reason I shared all that, and I appreciate your patience, Jana. While I
Yeah.
went through that was just that it's a complicated story, and so I felt like that's my best way of summarizing it when I'm trying to like show kids the story, because I find with some of my other books it's a lot easier to kind of sum up in just a few sentences. This one I found a bit more challenging. Um, so
It
yeah,
is it
thanks
is
for
a very yeah, it is a very layered story. And so I'm going to ask you what I think is probably one of the most conventional generic questions you could possibly get, which is where did the idea come from?
so I was thinking about this this week. This book has been out about 2 weeks, and so I'm very much in like the mode of trying to like raise awareness about it and just like get the word out. And a big part of how I do that is like trying to get into schools to do school assemblies to talk to kids about the project. But also, we could talk a bit more about this later. I also want to give them information that's helpful to them because I know
Hmm.
kids like to write. But this question of where the idea came from is stuff I was starting to put some thought into. And I did actually have some slides on that too, but I won't show. Um, I discovered during that first few months of COVID, I was out walking we have a little natural area in my town. I was out walking my dogs, and it was a kind of one of these like gray, foggy days, and I discovered we have this mountain of Christmas trees in our town as well, and it just felt very like ethereal, magical, kind of mysterious thing to sort of come across. So visually, that mountain just sort of just stuck in my head as like a weird little place that sort of people didn't realize about. I had a couple other things. There was a book that I read in 2006 called The Omnivore's Dilemma by an author named Michael Pollan. Just sort of like one of these what do you call it? Like a pop science kind of hardcover, nonfiction hardcover about like, kind of our ethics in the food supply. And I literally only read half of one chapter. It was a book that was like really popular, like sort of the
Hmm.
NPR type
Hmm.
book of the moment kind of thing.
Hmm.
I didn't get that into it, but he did talk about this idea that like if we accept like, certain things happening in our food, how our food is produced,
Hmm.
a lot of us can live with that. But if any of us like found out about like a pig that escaped from that type of situation, we would all root for that pig. We would all root for that animal. That's our natural human instinct, is that we all want it to like nobody would be like, "Oh, let's get it back to the farm." You know what's
Uh-huh.
happening? We want the little guy to win. That's like our human nature, but there's also things that we can kind of live with because part of what the story I think is kind of getting at is we sort of tell ourselves stories about how the world works, um, make us sort of able to like be in it. And then the other thing that I didn't know at the time, but like sort of led to this a lot was in 2015 I'd made a little diary comic just about a day in the summer. One day, we'd gone down to the beach. We live near the shore in New Jersey, and spent the day at the beach on a beach club. My daughter was real into Minecraft at that time, and I remember discussing on the beach, and I'd written about this in the diary. The people who own the beach had done a lot of construction to try to stop the waves from coming up and eroding, like, all the nice stuff people were paying for these beach clubs. Um, so, we're trying to control something that's very, that's natural, that's we don't really have a ton of control over. And I kind of like was just connecting the two things of like building and controlling things in like what was happening in our real life and then like what was happening with my kids on their tablets in the Minecraft. So these are like a lot of the sort of early nuggets that kind of like I was about to say festered. They festered in my brain. Marinated is a better word. And so I sort of had this image, I had these thoughts, but then I had to, as I thought about it as a book for kids, some of those things don't actually sound that great for a book for kids. Like, there also have to be fun and entertainment and things that I think kids will enjoy, as well as actually I hope very much that they take things from.
Mhm,
I hope this is a book that will sort of speak to like anxiety
mhm,
in kids, which is something that's very common, probably connected to devices and things like that. But I also separately don't want to write a book that's like anti screen time. 'Cause
mhm.
maybe the teachers and the parents might like that, but I'm like, it's not really like I wanted to meet the kids, meet my character and where he is. I wanted to look at gaming and devices and things the way that like my readership, like it's
Mhm.
important to them and it's like a real place in which they live and like operate. I mean, it's as far as I can tell, because I mean that's what I've seen in my own household.
Me too.
So that
So
was yeah. So those are
how
a lot of the big ideas.
how did those sparks definitely connect for me with the story, but then how did it ultimately become what you pitched to a publisher? Or like how long at what point did you start saying to yourself, "Okay, now I'm gonna take some of these ideas and I'm gonna formulate it into a story," and how long did that take?
I would say it took a long while. And this is something I thought about in terms of the creative process. Um,
Mhm,
so my previous book series, middle grade graphic novel series, The Fifth Quarter, which continues to be a book that like is very popular when I take it to schools. Kids, I mean, kids love basketball. It's a
mhm,
very very straightforward story. The gist of it is that the main character, she loves playing basketball. She's not that good. So it's
mhm,
really just a story about her being determination to improve. She wants to get in what they call the real game rather than being relegated to like the fifth quarter, still
mhm,
for the not so good kids to play. That was a very basic and I think perfectly good, entertaining, story written for middle grade readers. Um, but when I first came up with the idea for the Hidden Dominion, it was actually it was originally called George's Dominion. Uh, Title was something that like, kind of came to me over the years. Um, my earliest pitches didn't have a lot of the elements that actually ended up in the book, like all the stuff with the science fair, stuff like
mhm,
that. It was just going to be a much, much smaller, more straightforward story. I think just about like basically his dog gets lost in the woods and,
mhm,
worried about this pig and then, kind of like figures out what happens to the pig. Um, but the book didn't actually, it took a long time. Publishing takes a long time. I don't know if you've noticed, but it moves at a glacial pace. And so I didn't initially like, I got some early interest. I got some early, like, some significant early interest that didn't sort of pan out. And I actually had to rethink and rewrite this pitch quite a few times before I was able to sort of finalize the publisher. Um, and I actually am grateful for that. I wasn't at the time because it was like painfully slow, like I wanted to have a book to work on. I wanted
mhm,
to like, be in the process of a project. Like I wanted to just be in it because that's for me creatively the best time. But I kind of am grateful that it was like not an easy road. Like it took a few years to like really like to from like my initial ideas to like actually signing the contract because I think a lot of that time helped me like put some layers into the story and add a lot of things that like I'm really glad are there. And so I don't I don't miss those nights in 2022 and 2023 when I was laying awake thinking, I'm like, "Can I do this anymore?" But, ultimately, I'm grateful for it 'cause, as I said, like, early feedback that's maybe not positive, that's positive, but, like, certainly, like, suggesting that this book needs more or, like, it's kinda good in a way because, as I said, it kind of, like, helped develop it.
mhm. Okay, so then you did get a book deal and, you started with the fun part, which is actually producing the book. But as I was saying to you before we started recording, I am so impressed by the art in this book. I mean, it's just so lush. That's the word that I use to describe it. It's incredibly detailed, and love the coloring style that you have for it. I'll just show another random spread. Um, so tell me about that. Tell me about the artwork. Like how did you develop the style for it?
So, as right before we were talking, and I was trying to find some pages to show of like early things. I've deleted a lot of my early drafts, which I'm very distressed to discover. Doesn't matter. I have all the final stuff, but so a couple things creatively. I really wanted to spend a lot of time like rendering the environments that the characters are in because there's two places. There's the real world that I want to feel a certain way and feel very real and inhabited. And then there's the world of Dominion, which also equally needs to feel big and real and like an actual place. So I really had to spend a lot more time than I have in other projects um, creating these visuals. Because sometimes when I think about cartooning, a lot of times I think about it how like you can actually go minimal a lot of the time. Like, like cartooning's like an efficient storytelling, a way of telling stories, right? Like you could just draw simple things. Like you don't have to do backgrounds half the time. But as long as the reader understands where they're supposed to be, they don't have to show everything. So that's like a main the mentality that I carry with me a lot. Like I publish little diary cartoons, like on my Instagram or in essays and stuff like that all the time, and I rarely get very intricate with the backgrounds because I felt like it's just not important. But for this story, I felt like it was like very necessary that I like make the world feel like rich and like inhabited and like an
Mhm.
actual place. So I made two decisions. Um, I actually drew on two different devices. I have over to the side here a large Cintiq Wacom tablet,
Mhm.
like a sorry, my dogs are going off. I don't know if they can hear that. Um, this is quite like it's a very big one, big glass tablet that I draw directly into Photoshop using a brush. It's called Full Bleed, and that's what I use to ink all the real world stuff.
Mhm.
But then I would take the pages that I created in Photoshop from my Cintiq, and I would actually send them over to my iPad Pro, um, and where I would do the watercoloring using a different set of brushes that created this sort of watercolor feel. That became a whole technical problem because I was having to draw the inks at 1200 DPI just to get the look and feel that I wanted, but I can't color at that level because I'd create these files that just would crash.
Mhm.
I had to shrink down the pages and then color at 300. And then what I did throughout the entire process is I just built the book in InDesign from the get go.
Mhm.
So in InDesign, I would have a layer with the large high res inks and then the low res color underneath, and then actually lettering straight into InDesign throughout. And then with the Dominion pages, I did that all on the Cintiq into Photoshop, and I colored on the Cintiq with a different sort of brighter, bolder, like brush tool. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, actually like it's kind of interesting. Like InDesign was something I learned how to use with the fifth quarter books, and I got sort of used to this idea of like actually building your pages as you go and kind of like creating an InDesign document and letting that dummy like it only
Mhm.
virtually.
Mhm.
But later on, like if you look at the cover, which is very kind of like intricate and like lots
Mhm.
of layers, uh,
Mhm.
I kind of built it in InDesign. Like I created graphics, like I do some bushes or trees
Mhm.
or branches, but I didn't like make that image doesn't exist all at all anyway.
Okay.
Like it's just like I have pieces that I've like
Mhm.
layered. I made this like very layered InDesign file because I kind of thought a lot throughout this project about my own kind of limitations as an artist. I'm not actually like I wouldn't be very good at like to draw a forest that looks like that, just like straight up.
Mhm.
Layering it like helped me sort of do what nature does, like sort of like slapping stuff on top of each other, like really
Mhm.
kind of giving a feel of like this being like a, a messy real place.
Mhm.
I actually couldn't have done this book without like basically building it in InDesign and wouldn't be able to like I wouldn't be able to draw that way.
Mhm.
In one go. It kind of had to be like happen a little bit by accident, some of it. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. It's really fascinating. Do you know Gareth Hines at all?
I do know that name.
Yeah, he does a lot of adaptations of classic literature, like Greek mythology in graphic novels, and he's been doing it for a very, very long time. But does something similar to you with InDesign. He did a workshop for Kids Comics Unite a number of years ago, and he like puts everything together in InDesign.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very like it's interesting how you can do it like with the different like resolutions and stuff like that. They like you can like set things so that like it wouldn't work if you weren't using this program. Like,
Hmm.
like wouldn't like come together. But
Hmm. Yeah, that's
I love it.
fascinating. No, I like I said, I really love the coloring style in this book. Is that something that you experimented with to come up with what you liked, or was it just sort of your natural style from the beginning?
So as I kind of hinted at when I was showing the pages from the book, like the watercolors, I was doing, um, like kind of like that's my style. Like I found these brushes on my iPad Pro using Procreate, and like from having just made comics, that's a lot of my style. But the Dominion pages, and I'm just looking here for like a page to show. Um, so this is how the Dominion pages look. Um,
Hmm.
like a bolder color, which is
Hmm.
somewhat like my style. Um, in the beginning, I was trying to get something that looked a bit more graphically like Roblox or
Hmm.
like Fortnite.
Hmm.
Um, like these shinier block.
Hmm.
Well, if it was like Roblox, it'd be like these more cube,
Hmm.
like pixel based kind of looking thing.
Hmm.
And I really did try that for a little bit, but I kind of actually like was feeling like I wasn't really hitting it, and it was just gonna end up looking like bad. Like, because it wasn't gonna look like a Roblox game, but it was gonna look. I don't know. Just I kind of felt like my world of Dominion doesn't really look exactly like a video game.
Hmm.
I did my best to kind of like uh
Hmm.
capture a little bit of a Fortnite look and feel,
Hmm.
but those things I just sort of had to like, what, I'm gonna let it go and let it, because I want people not to like fall out of the story like feeling like this doesn't look like a proper video game. So like I cut out like usually in video games you see words floating everywhere and stuff like that. And I didn't really want to do that because I felt like that's information that the reader, takes in, and
Hmm.
if it's not
Right.
important, it just like can busy up and muddy up the whole kind of look of the thing. Um so yeah, I kinda had to push myself in terms of what I've normally done, but I still had to keep it within my own sort of skills, my skill level. I mean,
So how many pages is the book?
the book is quite long, actually. It just sort of kept growing. So the story is about, I think, 236 pages, and then there's like a bunch of back matter and things too.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that was the other thing is that you know, I possibly could have like achieved something different, but like for so many pages and like frank desire to one day not be working on the book.
Yes.
I had to kind of find like that right place in between.
How long did it take you to finish from start to finish?
Yeah, it took a while. It was like a good solid, maybe like two, like, well, hmm, I would say like 3 years total. Um, the first 9 months or so is very focused. I'm very focused on the writing. And I
Hmm.
can't show very briefly. I'm like I wish I had more to show, but I'll just show very briefly. Um, like how I thumbnail.
Hmm.
Like right here, this is a page where the teacher is coming in to tell these kids they're doing bad. So these are like what like a thumbnail of my pages will look like when I'm in the writing phase. So like I
Hmm.
do it as comics immediately. Uh,
Hmm.
kind of like that's just sort of how I, so it's Jordy right there like in the thumbnail. So I'm writing and drawing kind of simultaneously. Um is that gone away now? Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Um but yeah, the writing itself actually continued once I started moving into the final art because I was struggling with certain aspects of this story. I wouldn't I actually did more getting other people to read the book and give me feedback than I've ever done before.
Hmm.
Like just on, I'm trying to hit upon a couple things, might be harder to put into a story for kids, like it was about like, animal welfare, hinting at like, anxiety that people might have about the environment and stuff like that. Like I really wanted to I did a lot of like I paid people actually. I went to like I actually like hired people off of what's that website where you can get like readers and things?
Reedsy or no? Not
No, it was something where you could hire people.
okay.
I mean, I got sensitivity readers because I have characters, people of color in the book, and I wanted to make sure I was presenting them the right way. I paid for sensitivity readers, but I also just paid like for basic like general feedback and stuff like that. But you know so the process was kind of like a fairly long rolling one where I was like doing a lot of changes continually, even as once I was into the drawing phase. Um, but yeah, then the drawing itself did take a while because some of those pages are
Pretty detailed.
well, it's funny. Sorry, that appearing on screen.
No.
Well, if you hear those dings, that's just my daughter. She's supposed to be at school, but she's about to graduate and is uh is basically checking out. Is
Okay.
is done with school. Let me just show one page. This I was probably on that screen. It's a double page spread. It's this image of these Christmas trees.
Mhm.
And like it's very, very like this took a long time.
Yeah.
But I've always sort of thought in cartooning like uh you these sort of like moments like can be big in a story and like it like really putting in a lot of time for like that kind of like big shot kind of thing. I mean, I used to think, I still probably do, that like you could write a story where you don't really put any background for pages, and then occasionally I used to say like you just remind the reader you know how to draw. Now and then, like, you see what I can do. But more with this one, I was trying to kind of maintain a steady kind of high bar on the illustrations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I'm wondering if I should switch over into talking about how you're getting the word out about this. Is there anything else you wanna say about the creative part?
Um, no, I think that's yeah. I mean, I feel really like the only thing I'll add about this is so I've written for grown up readers, like
Mhm.
so two things. I've written for grown up readers, and I've written now a couple books for younger readers. And so this book, I think, kind of actually works for both age ranges. Like it's written for middle grade, like that's who it's targeted at and stuff like that. But I think that adults will get as just as much out of it. Like
Mhm.
feel as confident in this as like an adult book, um, not adult, grown up book.
Mhm.
But the other thing is, as I was trying to like figure out how many books I've written, some of them are short story collections, so I don't know
Mhm.
if they count. So I will say I've written about 6 or 7 books, and that is a good thing to say at a school visit because then all the kids go, 6, 7.
Okay, perfect, perfect segue. 6, 7, and schools. So, I before we started recording this interview, Mike, I told you that I admire what you do so much with visiting schools because I've seen you give workshops at libraries and schools, and you are so good at it. You explain your work really well, which we already saw at the start of this interview, but you also explain how storytelling works in comics, and you have this super duper cool, workbook that you bring, and do you still bring this exact workbook when you
Yeah,
do
it's probably been updated a tiny bit.
Okay.
Yeah, like I essentially created, I think it's a 12-page pamphlet, right? And this, essentially came out of, I make zines, like, I've been making zines since the '90s, and I continue to make zines now, I have a little zine club that I just do through my Patreon, so it's something I like to do, just a fun little outlet, but I was able to create this little workbook that I can bring into schools, and it's got, like, activities and exercises that I can walk the kids through, and doing that has given me, basically, like I has essentially have 2 things I can offer, a school or a library. Like, I can do an assembly presentation,
Mhm.
and which is, all the kids in a gymnasium or an APR kind of thing or an auditorium. And I have a big slideshow and I walk through what I try to do in both the assembly and the workshops is to connect it to my work, but to focus a lot on how cartooning works, the language of making comics, like, to encourage kids to make their own stuff. Because
Mhm.
actually, like, frankly, they love that. Uh,
Mhm.
like, kids do like making and writing and, like giving them ideas on like things that they could do and like making them feel like they could make their own comics is like something they enjoy. So I feel like I've benefited from not making my presentations just about my books.
Mhm.
Mm, And I kind of learned that because early on, like when I first tried to go to a school, like when the fifth quarter first came out, and it was fine. I'd go to schools and I'd just do like basically like a 30-minute like presentation about the book and then like any questions kind of thing, like, and it was okay at schools, but it was actually when I first started asked to go to libraries that I kind of realized I need to put more into this because I libraries near me asked me to come do like a presentation, and I the first couple of times I went out and just showed my like slideshow about my book. And I remember I was at a library in Allentown, New Jersey, which is a very, very small but lovely town in Monmouth County, but like on the far outreaches. I'm saying this to you because I know you're from New Jersey as well. 2 kids showed up to the workshop.
Two?
2 kids. This is a very small town. I showed them my presentation, and then I'm like, "Any questions?" And they're like, "No, one of us is 5, and the other one's like the 8-year-old older brother." And I was like, "Do you want to buy a book?" And then I was like, I should probably try to make this a bit more interactive. So that's when I probably began just by like putting together like just some photocopies, but then because I had this zine background, I like, you know what, I'm gonna like sort of build this whole like thing that like
Mhm.
when you held up the workbook, probably doesn't look that impressive because there's nothing really on the cover.
Mhm.
Because the idea is it's gonna get filled in by, the person working on it. Uh,
Mhm.
and it's also probably a little hard to see on the camera because a lot of the stuff that is written on it is in this blue ink,
Mhm.
like a little nod to cartoonists and the blue line non-reproducible blue line pencil, that I use throughout the workbook, so it probably doesn't look that amazing when you held it up, but it's full of interesting things.
It is truly full of interesting things. Yes, it's just the way you explain all the most important conventions of comic storytelling in this very short zine workbook. It's really astounding to me. I think you must have. I mean, how long did it take you to sort of uh plan it, I guess?
So, I think what has basically happened is that, the 5th quarter books came out at an unfortunate time, like COVID time.
Mhm.
Definitely not the only author who had a book come out, in well, it was May of 2020 that it came out,
Mhm.
right? And then
Mhm.
it came out in May of 2021, where it was still kinda like wasn't a lot of things happening, like, in what you might consider, like, the traditional ways to do a book release, like
Mhm.
a party at a bookstore kinda thing
Mhm.
like that, or, stuff like that, or panels. Um, so this activity, this, like, avenue that I started pushing real hard into was going to libraries because it was starting to have those things happen, and as I explained, like, a lot of it was kinda like trial and error, learning by doing.
Mhm.
I feel very fortunate, I say this all the time, but it's true, like, I feel fortunate to be living in this state of New Jersey because we're very, very densely populated, but not a giant geographical area. So there's like a million libraries and schools and stuff that I can go to, and generally not drive more than an hour and a half at most.
Mhm.
So I've covered a lot of the state at this point. Um, so the workbook, yeah, like I originally probably just was making like little like packets, kind of like
Mhm.
just a couple pages that were,
Mhm.
stapled at the top. And then switched to like creating this little workbook, and then the workbook I've evolved it and I've taken certain things out. Usually stuff again, like I don't want to undersell my own work, but like I took out things that are like the original one had like draw a picture of my character from the fifth quarter.
Mhm.
And I took that out because it turns out they're much more excited to not have to draw my character.
Mhm, mhm,
Like we have an activity now. In the workbook, it probably says a cartoon character that you will recognize.
mm.
What we're actually doing in terms of the activity is we're usually drawing like SpongeBob in some kind of situation. We're trying to like express a lot of things just through drawings. It may not be in the one you have, but it's in the one that
Yeah, I'm
you know.
looking at the one I have.
Um, but what we do is we create this drawing, and it's a lot of fun for them. They're excited to draw those particular characters, but each time it's different. Like it's a different scenario, a different we're trying to have different expressions on the characters' faces, and then we take words that we like generated elsewhere, like these random sentences, and put them on the picture. And that particular activity I got from I think from a Linda Barry book, which is wonderful. I can't express more gratitude than possible to the existence of those Linda Barry books. And Ivan Burnetti's got some, and there's some great books out there, like with some good ideas for like cartooning activities you could do. But so now it's a thing where we draw these famous characters, we put our own words on it, and then we sort of see how like putting words into the drawing change the meaning. And they create like scenarios and backstory, and because it's a part where we're kind of like focusing on like what is the role of words in comics. Because
Mhm.
in some of my earlier workshops, I focus a lot on how you don't use words in comics. You do all the storytelling and the drawing, but that's not entirely true. It's kind of, but words do operate in a different way. They're not describing to you the action, but they're explaining to you, like, they're giving you information about the characters and the story and stuff. Sorry if that's kind of getting a bit jumbly, but
Yeah,
the point
no.
of is it's just kind of continually evolving.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, how many copies of your workbook would you estimate that you have given out to kids at this point?
I would definitely say it's in the thousands, the low thousands.
Mhm,
And I say that because I know that I've had to order. I do it through a website called Mixam, which I'm
mhm,
sure folks
mhm,
on the channel have heard of, but
mhm, mhm,
a really great way to self-publish like little zines. And I
mhm,
know that I had to order like boxes of like 1,000. Uh,
mhm,
because if I go to a school, which I do,
mhm,
that's the other thing. I sometimes I go to schools and I do the workshop, even for large groups. That's a lot of workbooks that I'm
mhm.
going through. But it's great because it's got my name on everyone, and
What do you happen to know what the unit cost is for you of each of the workbooks?
if I order them in bulk, I think it could be like as low as like between 30 cents and 50 cents a copy.
Mhm.
But it's not nothing. Um,
Yeah.
so it's better for me to order in larger amounts because the per unit goes down.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, I had one of the worst things that happened to me. Not the one, many worse things have happened in my life, but an unfortunate learning experience I had with this was when I bought. I think maybe it was like a order of like at least a few hundred of these workbooks, but I hadn't checked the thing where I need it to be matte paper quality so people can draw on it, and they all showed up and they're all glossy and
Oh.
like magazine kind
Mhm,
of
mhm,
kind of feel
mhm.
kind of thing. Like that's what
Oh, what did you do with them?
I think I've taken to those to events where I'm like doing stuff for free, and,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, here you
Yeah.
go, kids. Here's
Yeah, yeah,
ones that
yeah.
are a real pain in the butt to draw. Gotta get rid of these. So those
Well,
are things
would
that
markers work, okay on stuff like glossy
yes,
stuff?
they
Yeah.
probably do. Yeah, like I figured it out, but it wasn't like pencils is like a nice easy thing. Like it's easy to just have a
Yeah.
box full of pencils. That that I could show.
Uh-huh.
Here's my tub of stuff to go to, and they see all the
Oh.
pencils.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah, because just don't they don't cost a lot. I feel like the whole thing is like not massive. It's not a massive overhead. Like I do have to produce these magazines, these
Mhm,
booklets, but other than that, it's just bring it a pencils, pencil sharpener, and then scrap paper,
mhm.
and that's how it's how it works.
Okay. So I wanna get into the nitty-gritty a little bit about, like, sort of like the school visit business, because I do think it's tough to make a living as a cartoonist.
It is.
And and one of the ways that you can make money is by being paid to go to schools or libraries, and so, how has your business evolved? Like, I mean, has your income sort of like is it sort of like a slow, steady growth each year for the money that you're getting from the school visit business? Or, just tell me whatever you're comfortable sharing.
So it's a definitely like the first ones I did, the very first one I did was at my kid's school. I actually live like right across the street from it, and they invited me in, and that was like masks on, like full
Mm-hmm.
COVID era type stuff. And they offered me an honorarium, and because I did no idea that you could get an honorarium for this sort of thing. So I was like, oh my gosh, I did not know this was a thing, and apparently it's quite normal. Schools generally don't have budgets for this type of thing, but PTAs often do. Um, so that came about just because I was a local author. I think I'd been written about in like our little town magazine,
Mm-hmm.
when the book had come out. So they invited me in. That was great. That was an incident. I mean, not an incident, one of those rare but wonderful visits where the PTA also buys a copy of the book for the students.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. So I thought to myself, you know what? Like, if my kid's school does this, then surely other schools do this. And it turned out, yes, they absolutely do. There are a couple things. Some of it requires a lot of self-starting and kind of a DIY attitude about the whole thing because so much of what I have had to do is just a lot of cold emails, like
Mm-hmm.
going on the web, looking up PTAs, trying to find like the addresses, trying to make contact with someone. Like the PTA is the best one to get in touch with, but if you can get in contact with whoever the school librarian is, that's a good one too because they advocate for you, and then potentially if the principal is good. But it's a lot of like having to email and just spending a lot of time trying to get in touch with people. And that unfortunately, like I was discussing this with someone last week at a visit. The PTAs change every year. So like because it's all parents, volunteers. So like you may have a great visit to school and have a great connection, but then like 2 years later, those people don't have kids at that school anymore. They could care less who comes to visit. So
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of like an ongoing. That's probably the toughest thing. So a couple things I've done to uh, try to, other ways rather than just like having to do emails. One thing that was been very helpful to me is it turns out New Jersey has a convention for school librarians. It's held in Atlantic City. So you can get a table like as a vendor and basically like show your books and also your information about school visits. So that's like been a very like I did that for the first time a couple years ago, and I made some connections with school librarians that way that have been extremely fruitful. I do see like a small crowd of similar minded like New Jersey based children's book illustrators and cartoonists who appear at these things. I don't know if other states do similar stuff, but this has like been a very nice thing to do. And then like also New Jersey has like arts organizations, like the Mars Arts is a thing up north. They've helped me a lot because I just got in contact with this. They're essentially an organization. I think they get some funding from the state, and they focus on like bringing arts into schools. And I was able to connect with them, basically share like some of what I've done. And then a wonderful thing they did was they had like this showcase where all these people who have stuff to like offer to schools could go up, and we had to make like a 15-minute demo of our presentation. And you're doing it for like librarians from like schools all over the state. So it was a little stressful condensing, like trying to get through the hour-long thing in 15 minutes because I didn't want to kill any of my darlings. I wanted to go home my part. So I just did it like micro machine style, like super fast, like burn through it. Because I love putting a lot of variety and a lot of different types of things into these presentations. Um, like a lot of different stuff about comics, live drawing, stuff like that, and mixed in with what's in the slideshow. And also, I know I'm going all over the place now, but like another thing I love to do now, which I didn't used to do, but I've only just started, is even in the assemblies having kids draw. So now they show up with paper and pencils, and like we do it on, they could just lean on the floor, and like it's been almost like a game changer because as a author of middle grade books, my real target audience is the upper elementary into middle school kids, but a lot of schools would prefer you to present to the entire student body.
Mm-hmm.
So creating a program that's suitable for like kindergartners and first graders and second graders has been necessary. But that was been a bit of a challenge to like find the thing that like, works well for that younger age group, but still engaging and not just like them sitting there like talking while I
Hmm.
give them the same presentation they give the eighth graders. So yeah, like having like more interactivity is like, been really wonderful in that regard. All right. I think I feel like I covered a lot of different things there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, would is the revenue that you get from your school and library visits significant? Like, do you feel like it's an important revenue stream for
Yeah.
you now?
I would say it's very important to my income. The struggle that I'm not struggle, but the thing I'm kind of like we're talking in June 2nd, right? This probably will be viewed by people in the month of June, I'm assuming,
Mhm,
or in the summer.
mhm. Fingers
This
crossed.
time of
Yeah.
year, I feel very freaked out because it's like, summer's here and there's no school visits and like so it's a real low point. Because there aren't
You
gonna
should teach a summer camp.
well, that's what my wife's saying. That right, I should. And like library things I can do that, like, but those are, the smaller budgets. So really I make most of my money. I do like things during the school year, but like really read across America, the spring is kind of like that's busy season
Hmm.
for authors. Because that's when a lot of schools and PTAs will think about like bringing in authors. Um,
Hmm.
you know, uh, like I feel like that September through December, I rarely have a lot going on in that time because like everyone's coming back to school. It's just like the publishing industry. Can't do anything during back to school. Editors can't read pitches during back to school, and then it's the vacations and it's Thanksgiving in December. And essentially, like we get to January, it's like okay, all right, now we're really at school. What? Uh, let's see what we got to actually do. So that seems to be like that's the spring is kind of the best time for actually booking um,
Hmm.
like visits and things like that because that's when they're ready for that type of stuff to happen at school.
Hmm.
I'm sure that I know there are schools that do stuff throughout the year, but because I'm essentially like mostly, as I said, like mostly trying to set this stuff up myself, just how I found I have more success at that time of year. And nicely now I get a lot more inquiries coming to me around that time of year, usually from PTA people who didn't realize they had to bring in an author and they're like, "Oh no, I'm the I'm the chair of the the events." So,
Hmm.
but I think there's enough word of mouth starting to happen that I'm getting a lot more like people reaching out to me because that's the impression I get is that librarians do share a lot of information
Hmm.
with one another.
Yes.
So that's I certainly do feel I'm getting a lot more of that now, like people contacting me.
And how far in advance typically are visits organized or scheduled? Is it usually a couple months in advance or?
I think usually a couple months. I've got one next week. It was a very sort of last minute one. I'm very, very, very happy to have it. Yeah, like normally it would be like a couple months. But certainly like a month is pretty normal.
Okay.
Be like, okay, can you come in like a couple weeks? Because there
Hmm.
isn't too much to it. Like,
Hmm.
I believe there's probably a lot of variety in terms of like how people organize their contract and stuff. But I don't really like, have a contract. I create an invoice which details what I'm gonna do and the date and the rate and everything like that. I send that over, but I don't necessarily have like a contract with the schools. Um,
Hmm. Do
but
you have like a PDF or something that you ask the school to share with the parents so they know who you are as an author and your books and things like that?
yeah, especially if I'm trying to help the librarian or the school sell copies of the books because um, books book selling it seems like will happen in a number of different ways. Like sometimes, but not often, the PTA will just buy copies.
Hmm.
Wonderful. Sometimes they'll work with a local bookstore to them in order to like
Hmm. Hmm.
sell the book. So they'll create like a flyer and they'll do it all through their own local bookstore. But very often, probably more often, is just that the school knows I'm coming. I create a flyer with information about me and information about the books, and the librarian can distribute that and try to encourage sales. And oftentimes, um, the families will just pay me directly, like through like a Cash App type stuff, like Venmo,
Hmm.
PayPal. So which is probably quite easy for parents. get orders come through my Venmo, and then when I go to the school, I just have a box that are already pre-signed, and I can just bring them with me, and they get handed out. And then usually all the kids whose parents didn't order a book are like, "Hey,
Yeah, yeah, that's
well, maybe your parents should read the flyers," which is 100%. I'm a parent myself, and I'm the parent who doesn't remember to read the flyers and
yeah, 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 yeah.
doesn't order anything, and
Yeah.
that's
We need
not.
to have empathy for
No,
all
I
the
have a ton of
over.
it 'cause I'm not joking. I'm the worst. I'm pretty sure I forgot to order my son a yearbook this year, and he's about to
Yeah,
realize that in about a week.
yeah. Oh gosh. Wow. Well, I think I covered everything I wanted to talk to you about, but I definitely want you to tell everybody how they can connect with you.
So a couple ways. I do have a website, which is MikeDawsonComics.com, which is on my list of things that I really need to improve. Like
I love your website.
the MikeDawsonComics.com doesn't have a lot going on it.
Okay.
I have a separate website for my school visits, which is cartooninglessonswithMikeDawson.com.
Mhm.
That is a more robust website focused on like school visits and workshops. And then I have a newsletter, which is through Substack, which I send out about once a month. So I'm not sure what that is called. It's like Substack Mike Dawson. Um, so subscribe to that because that actually has like all the information. Usually I like will send out updates. I try to keep it about once a month. Usually I put a little comic in there, um, but also like information on like visits I've done or workshops I've done. And then I'm extremely active on Instagram. So that's just a good way to sort of like follow me on a day to day basis because I post a lot of like small diary cartoons all the time there. But yeah, so best thing maybe to subscribe to the newsletter.
Yes.
Substack,
And
Mike
then
Dawson.
you also have your Patreon Zine Club,
Oh,
right?
yes. That's what I'm saying. I need a website that kind of actually like brings everything into one place.
Yes, yes.
Like so like it's not all separate. But yeah, so Patreon, Mike Dawson. I do a At this point, it's probably like a bi-monthly zine club where you pay a flat fee, and I send a brand new zine out in the mail that's signed, and it will show up at your house. So it was monthly. Now it's like every other month. I changed the price, made it a little lower. The new one I'm working on is just a bunch of diary comics about songs. I'm calling
Mhm,
it. It's like a mixtape zine, so it's like just
mhm.
little short cartoons having to do with like songs and things. Um, so that's the best one. Actually, everyone's don't go to my newsletter. Subscribe to my Patreon.
Yeah.
Do that. That's the better one.
Do that, everybody. Okay. Well, this has been so awesome, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's great to talk to you again.
Yeah. Yay. Okay. Bye.